This show is produced by the Harwood Podcast Network.
Hey there, everyone. I'm Cameron Harris. We love making the show available to you free of charge, and you can help keep it that way by making a contribution to our Karma Jar. To learn more, visit our website. Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Game On. Today we're going to be reviewing Just Cause 2. Now, Just Cause 2 could be considered a shooting game, but in fact it's more of a sandbox genre game. Now, if you don't know what a sandbox game is, it basically means that in the game you can do pretty much anything you want. Now, in the case of Just Cause 2, there is a storyline, but apart from that, you have free reign, and that's really one of the selling points of the game. So let's get right into it. Now, before we get into the gameplay of Just Cause 2, let me just lay down a little bit of the backstory for you. First of all, if you haven't played Just Cause 1, there's not really any need to. The story is pretty well set up in Just Cause 2, so you don't absolutely have to know all the backstory on these characters. The basic gist of it is, in Just Cause 2, you play the CIA agent Rico Rodriguez. Now, along with several other CIA agents, you've been sent to the island of Panau, just off of Asia, because the government there has been taken over by the new ruler, Baby Panau. Now, he is a dictator who is not friendly to the United States, and as such, your job is to destabilize his regime and basically get him out of there. Now, the way you do this is by causing chaos. Yes, that's about as simple as the game gets. You just cause chaos. That is the whole goal. Now, you can do this by, killing guards. You can do this by sabotaging military property. You can do all kinds of things. And the great thing about it is you can do these in extremely flamboyant, extravagant ways. If you want to, you can blow up an entire facility by planting C4 all around it, or you could fly a plane straight into it. You can do pretty much anything you want. That's where the sandbox element of the game comes in. Now, while you're on Panau, you also need to team up with several different gang factions. There's the Panauan equivalent of the Mafia, as well as a few rebels and things like that. Now, by working with them, you will learn more about this sort of hidden plot on Panau, which would explain why so many countries have taken an interest in it all of a sudden, and you'll also be able to cause even more chaos. Now, the storyline of Just Cause 2 is a fairly simplistic one, but that's not the real draw of the game. The real draw is in the gameplay. So let's talk about that next. Now, as I said at the beginning of the show, you could classify Just Cause 2 as a shooter because you do actually wield guns most of the time. Now, you can carry a grand total of 3 weapons. You can carry one large two-handed weapon like an assault rifle, machine gun, or sniper rifle, and you can also carry 2 one-handed weapons. Now, this can be any combination. You could carry a pistol and a small machine gun, or you could carry a small machine gun and a grenade launcher if you wanted to. It all depends on your style. Now, your main tool that you have at your disposal is actually a combination of 2 tools, a parachute and a grappling hook. Now, you might not think of those two as being a natural pairing, but it's actually pretty cool. As you're falling through the sky, you can launch a parachute, and then you can glide through. Now, this happens quite a bit. Jumping off of mountains, jumping out of airplanes, you find yourself falling through the air quite a bit. Now, as you're falling through the air, once you get down towards the ground, you can use the grappling hook to shoot down at the ground and continue to pull yourself forward, so you don't have to rely on wind or momentum to keep you going. Without the parachute, the grappling hook is still very useful because you can latch onto buildings and zip yourself across very, very fast, and you can also grab hold of enemies, pull them towards you. You can do a lot of pretty cool stuff with the grappling hook. Now, I will say right up front that Just Cause 2 is not a very realistic game when it comes to physics. In fact, it's very unrealistic, very stylized. Obviously, falling from a plane and just doing a free fall for 500 feet and then firing off a parachute at the last minute isn't going to let you survive that fall in the real world or in a realistic video game. So you can do things in Just Cause 2 that you would never be able to do in a realistic video game or the real world. And you can do them all just cause. My apologies, I had to get at least one just cause pun in there somewhere. Now let's talk about the various ways that you can cause chaos throughout the island of Panau, because that is your end goal. Cause chaos in any way that you possibly can. Now there are a few ways you can do this. First of all, there are military bases and cities all over Panau. And if you go to them, you can find things that are marked with the white Panauan star. That means that they're military or government property. And that means you can go ahead and destroy those things, whether they be water towers or radar dishes or anything you see that's marked with that white star. Destroy them and you'll get chaos points. Now, as you cause more chaos by moving around Panau and causing destruction, you unlock more parts of the story. Now, in some cases, those might be agency missions, missions that help further the CIA's cause on Panau, but other times it might be missions for the factions. And one of the most common mission type that you'll find is the stronghold takeover, where a gang faction will ask you to help them take over a facility or a stronghold or a base that's currently owned by the government. Now, there are quite a few of these stronghold missions, and they do have a little bit of a feel of cut and paste about them. It's always the same deal. Join up with a team of friendly soldiers and one technician. Escort the technician into the facility, shooting everyone along the way and destroying everything along the way, until you find a computer. The technician can hack into the system and make the facility yours. It's always the same thing. The good news is that even though the goal is always exactly the same, the way you go about that goal can be different every single time. Each stronghold has a different layout, and enemies get a lot harder as the game progresses. Now, when you complete a stronghold mission, that does a few things. First of all, it expands that faction's influence and unlocks even more missions for them, but it also acts as a save point. Anytime you get killed in the game, you will respawn back at the nearest stronghold. So it's in your interest to take over as many strongholds as you possibly can. That way, if you die, you know that you're not going to be too far away from where you left off. And in my opinion, one of the coolest things about Just Cause 2 is the amount of vehicles that are in there. Because as you're going around Panau, you will find, obviously there are common vehicles like cars and motorcycles that you'll find on roadways, but there are also other vehicles like planes, helicopters, military vehicles, boats. There are all kinds of these things. In fact, there are literally hundreds of unique vehicles that you can drive all over Panau. Now, I do want to point out that although the controls for Just Cause 2, for the most part, are very good, the different types of vehicles require different control schemes just naturally. So if you're driving a car, for example, controls are pretty much what you would expect in most driving games. But if you're controlling a helicopter, for example, you're going to have to get used to controlling a chopper instead of a car because it's a different button layout than that. And there are also some vehicles, like planes especially, that are very difficult to maneuver. They're just very difficult to take off and land. Fortunately, landing is optional. You could always just jump out of the plane and drive it into the ground and parachute off at the last minute. And why would you do that? Just cause. Sorry, I need to stop using that pun. Something else that's pretty cool about Just Cause 2 is that the world, Panau, is absolutely huge. If you take a look at this map, it is absolutely gigantic, and literally every point on this map is a place that you can go. And even though Panau is technically a very small island, they have all kinds of different areas. They have a mountainous area in the middle. They have deserts off to one side. They have more urban areas, like huge cities, all the way down to more rural villages that are off in the middle. As such, the look of Panau is very varied. Depending on where you are, you'll see different things and different people, different vehicles, different landscape, different architecture. It's a very diverse game. Visually, it's stunning and it's very varied. So to wrap things up, Just Cause 2 is a fantastic game. It's more for people who are interested in action and over-the-top effects than they are in storyline. It has a good storyline, but really, you're more interested in the explosions and the troops and all of the fighting. That's what you're really going to buy this game for. And let me tell you, even after you finish the storyline, you can just roam around Panau for hours. I mean, if you're going to go for 100% completion on this game, it will take you months. Seriously, it will take you months. And my hat's off to you because I've tried that and I didn't even get close. The game is available now for both Xbox, PS3, and PC. So if you want to get your hands on a copy, check out our website at harwoodpodcast.com and go to the Game On show notes for a link to where you can pick up a copy for yourself. Also, be sure to friend us up on Facebook at facebook.com/harwoodpodcast. And don't forget about our brand new badge program, where you can earn badges by playing games that we review on the show. Now, until next time, guys, game on.